What we have is a night spreader, axle, walking beam. Very common problem with them. Break the axle right off. So what we're going to do is a small video on how to replace the axle with obviously a new axle. So throughout the repair, we'll give you a couple options on how to do it for people that may be a little intimidated on how to make a repair like this, but it's actually quite straightforward. And we'll cover a couple different processes on the removal, because obviously the removal is going to be the key to keep all this so we can reuse it. Very first thing you would do is clean the whole area. Okay, rust, scale, paint, sandblasting would be better, but we don't have those capabilities. But so the very first thing we're going to do is clean it all up. The one process, or the one way you could do it, is to take your torch, cut through the weld, and remove this gusset. Then after you can get that out, there's another one on the top side. Take those out. We're going to use two processes. We're going to use a torch. So if you wanted to torch this out of here, if you didn't have a carbon arc, we have a carbon arc. But with a torch, you just cut these gussets to reuse later. You could reach down in, basically cut this off horizontally, take that slug right out. Then I would cut this top part off. Then I would cut around to remove the part that's in this gusset. After you got it all out of there, of course, then you'd prep it to put your new one in. But with a carbon arc, we're going to torch these gussets out, and then we'll carbon arc these welds right out, and this old axle should slide right out, and we should be in pretty good shape. So when we get all that done or in process, we'll let you know. Go ahead. Obviously, with a little persuasion, a little patience, that'll come right out of there. The object was to keep this hole all intact to realign our new axle. There's a little bit of tip in it, obviously, to put a little camber on it for the load. So we've made those calculations. It's about 1/4 of an inch. So when we put our new one in there, we got to clean all this all up. But it's going along pretty well. Actually, come out easier than expected. Go ahead. We have everything lined up. We got it tacked in position. We're going to preheat this stub a little, to probably around 300 degrees, just to get it so it's up to temperature so we can weld it. I'm sure it's some hardened steel of some kind. I'm sure it's pretty good stuff, so we'll check back when we get this preheated and get the first pass in it. Wire brush there. Got everything pretty much finished up. Took us about 2 hours. It all went real well. We had to make some new gussets because when we cut these out to save these pieces, we ended up cutting these a little short, but that was minor. And we got a lot of measurements. We got our preheat up there pretty hot. You really want to put a little preheat in something this thick, because obviously it'll pull the heat out of the weld zone so fast that it'll make it brittle. And when you weld across an axle like that, you really want to put some preheat in it. So other than that, it went pretty easy. So night spreader, happens a lot. Must be an awful lot of torque on these. And don't be intimidated. It's not a hard, difficult repair. The axle was about 200. The bearings were a little more, but really not that expensive of a fix. It looks bad when it happens, but